think everything is going okay now. Let's see if it shows up. I want to go to YouTube. See if it shows anything on my end. Okay. My channel. Is it showing? Okay, it's showing I'm live. Dismiss, go away. Okay, it's showing something. Okay, I'm hoping. Let me try to send a message. Thing streaming good. Is stream good? Oh yeah, I'm still. I forgot I had that channel. Oops. Okay, so yeah, that's definitely coming through now. I'm hoping. Oops, go away. Alright, I'm going to undo that. Okay, so I'm just going to have to check back and forth on things just to kind of keep up with everybody. Bear with me. It's not exactly my ideal setup for streaming. Number one, I'm missing my microphone. Number two, connectivity is pretty bad right now. I'm hoping to fix that problem. So, that being said, we are indeed going to try to build a white box fantasy medieval adventure game campaign, and we're going to start with GIMP. We're going to go to new, and 1920 by 1080 is usually good enough for what you want to do. So we have a background. We are going to add another layer. Now I like to go ahead and do a hex layer, that way I don't forget it, although you don't necessarily have to have everything straightened up. By the way, howdy to my viewers. I'm hoping everything sounds good. I'm hoping everything is going through okay. Skipping ahead a bit. So y'all just feel free to interact and all that. So we got a layer with hex, and we are going to also do features. And features is just going to be kind of general. So generally what I like to do is go ahead and put down my hex, and generally you want to go to filters and distorts and make your way down to mosaic. And once you do that, I typically like to do, whoops, that's far too big. 60 is a good size. It is what you are going to need. We are going to clean up by making the top neat, putting them at a so as you can see, it's filling everything in. Tile height I usually put down as a 1, and I don't like tile color variation. So, because it can kind of make things weird and messy. And hopefully I've got actual subscribers, people that actually watch me. Last time I tried to stream, I got a bunch of sex bots and scammers and stuff. So hopefully I actually have real followers of mine listening to me. So and if you are, understand that. Oh, jeez, what did I do? Cancel. Understand that I'm competing with a lot of people on a Friday night. You know, it is what it is. So generally, whenever I like to do my drawings, I like to choose this particular hardness right here, and I am terrible when it comes back to going back. There we go. Okay. I'm unsure of the size yet. We're going to try with a 5. I like to do a spacing sometimes, but not all the time, and I leave the jitter on because the jitter, in my opinion, adds kind of like a hand-drawn flair to it. So as of right now, I think that's good. Now I typically want to start by putting in my little town. We're going to go in, and I'm no artist, so forgive me. How does that look? Okay, I think that's a little bit too thick. So we're going to go down, and we want to make a little town. This will be our town. I'm going to fix that roof flare though. Again, I'm no artist. You don't have to have nothing. In fact, a little dot will work just as well. And we'll fill in the color like that. And now that that is done, you see, towns and features are the only things I like to fit into my hexes in a centered kind of way. And you'll find out, and you'll figure out why. I say that here in a minute because we're about to do something that adds a little flair to it. Now we're going to start with water. At this point, give me just a second here. I need to send a message here. Okay. So now that we've done that, I want to do some water, and typically I like to do a brush pencil size of 10. And what we're going to do is, because settlements and towns are typically built around water, we're just going to make this curvy line, and I like to make it go off the edge of the page. Now we like to branch off a little bit. There we go. It is at this point that we will go down and choose a 7 on the side, and we're going to put these little small streams in because it adds a little flair. Now I want to put in something like a lake. Okay, and whoops, let's undo that. Do a little bit of branching off streams and whatnot. Just adds a little character to it, right? And it doesn't have to be perfect. What we're going to do now is fill in that one because we want our water to be at least a solid color. Now that that's done, we are going to use, I typically like to go with a size 8 on some things. Will it work for here? Let's try something out. This is just to test something out. Okay, I think a size 8 is going to be a little bit too big, so instead we're going to do a size 5. Let's try that. Yeah, I like that. I like that look. So it is around here that I'll turn off my water, and I'll leave my little village alone, because now we are going to be going with you know what, let's do a little bit of a general thing. Okay, terrain. So generally speaking, you want to have a forest, and you don't need to do nothing crazy fancy detailed. Howdy, I finally made it to a stream while it was happening. I know, right? It's sup, Rex. Hey everybody, finally some actual followers. Sorry if my stream quality is kind of weird. I'm hoping to get some actual Wi-Fi set up here instead of using my hotspot, but I still got to make phone calls. Okay, so I'm not liking how those trunks look, so I'm going to redo this. Just chilling out and hanging out tonight, and the only people that can comment are people who have actually been subscribed to me for longer than a few minutes, instead of sex bots, which is what happened last time I tried to stream. So we're just kind of constructing a map for a white box campaign that I honestly am planning on trying to run in my personal time. Honestly, I have this one idea, and I'll probably shoot it by you guys since I'm thinking about it. Is my audio sounding okay? Because like I've lost my headphones and microphone that I usually record with, and I haven't found them yet. So I'm hoping to find them soon. But I'm hoping everything sounds good, or at least bearable. So anyway, when we do our forests and our trees, we typically want to do like this little number here. Just draw a blob and then put some like vertical lines going down to represent the trunks, right? That will represent our trees very well. Shucks. Alright, there we go. It's gonna drive me nuts. Connect. So no big artistry, you know, we're just doing a simple thing. Now that we've done that, we're going to add a few features. Like I like to have hills inside of my forest. Kind of breaks up a little bit of the monotony. Nothing big or fancy. You can also do a mountain. So there you go. Big and fancy. You know, you can tell it's a mountain. I know it looks okay. I know my mountain looks like an unfinished triangle, and my hills kind of look like a butt. But you know, understand about the hotspot. I tried to use my phone as a hotspot for a while, but kept running into sites that would load for me because I was untrustworthy. Yeah, it kind of is what it is. I'm going to be contacting Spectrum in the next week and hopefully setting up some decent Wi-Fi over here. A lot of people around here have Wi-Fi through them, so. But we have a mountain and we have some hills and we have a forest. But we want to put in some more features, right? So I don't think I want one there. I do actually want a mountain chain. So we'll do this little number right here. And again, nothing crazy. You don't need to be an artist like to make these things convey what you're trying to do, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, you should be able to understand a little bit about this, right? Now, if you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, the water doesn't like I don't know if I would put the water there," well, that GIMP has a cool feature where you just do. Well, hold on. Oh yeah, it's because I'm drawing through it because I'm a dingbat. So of course it's going to be like that. Whatever. I think I'm getting my point across. It's no big deal. but you can fill these in with a solid color, right? If you wanted to go that route. But as you can see, this is like enough. This is honestly enough. Audio is okay, maybe a tiny bit echo, but nothing too distracting. Honestly, I blame that on the apartment so far because I don't have any carpeting down yet, and it's still pretty empty in here. Um, so we just don't have a lot of stuff set up here yet. That's really the only reason for the echo. I thought about using the bedroom, but the bedroom would be honestly a bit worse. So I'm hoping everything sounds okay. I hope it's at least bearable and listenable. I do appreciate y'all tuning in. Like I said, I know on a Friday night I'm competing with a lot of other channels that are doing um, some kind of stream, and they of course have a bigger viewer base than me. But hey, it's cool. I do believe that me and Matt need to set up a collaboration sometime. I need to do that with Retro DM Ray too. Me and him have talked about that for the last couple of years. But as you can see, this conveys what we need to. Now, how much does one hex equal? Now, I would say, because I plan on this being kind of a smaller scale, I would say that one hex is not necessarily 6 miles like it typically is with a lot of maps from, like, say, the TSR area. I would say, honestly, keep it small. We'll say 1 mile. 1 hex equals 1 mile. So, like, it will say it takes 1, 2, 3 miles to reach the forest, and 1, 2, 3 to reach the hills, and nothing has to be particular, okay? Like, at the end of the day, you don't have to be, like, super nitpicky. Like, as long as you can play your game with it, it's fine, right? So I think that's what we need to start everything out, right? So what I'm going to do is want to shrink a few things, and we're going to bring up white box, right? Sarah, hey, that's my wife. How you doing, honey? But we're going to start with something simple. Now, some of the terrain that we have around, we're going to open up a Word file, and if you're looking for a good program that uses that's like Microsoft Word but is available for free, I recommend Apache OpenOffice 4. It's free, just like GIMP is, and you can do. I like to do double column stuff. So we're going to open this particular file up, and I like to format my stuff to have double columns because it just looks cool. It's just a style thing. You can keep a single column if you want, and I always put a 0.1 inch divider in the margin. And let's say, okay, here's Quentin Caps. You can download that. That's a little font that you can use. We're going to go to the middle, and we're just going to name this something. We're going to make this a 20-point font, just for the sake of it. We're just going to call it something simple like box campaign, right? So that's just something to get us started. Now I like to hit enter, go down a couple. We're going to select. We're going to select a 16-point font, and we're going to go to Saltane Black. Right, and if you're wondering what Saltane Black is, well, for a lot of y'all that were old schoolers back at old school before old school was a thing, here's that font. Starting town. So we don't have a name for it yet. We'll come up with something later. But now we have another thing we can do. We're going to say we're going to make some Wandering Monster tables. Um, and of course, the cool thing about White Box is because it's so simple. It's probably the bare bones of the bare bones of OSR games, which is why I like it a lot. Retro DM Ray is another great content creator. Hi, Sarah. Nice to meet you. Yeah, me and Ray have been friends for years, and well, for a few years. I make it sound like we go way back. We actually don't. But he joined me on a stream some years back when I still pretty much covered a lot of basic fantasy RPG stuff, and I'm having a brain fart trying to find this table. I know it's back here. I should probably actually look where it actually is. It's back this way. But here we are, Wandering Monsters. But me and him, we actually have each other as friends on Facebook too, so we know each other's real names. So as you can see, we have open terrain, we have forest, we have hills and mountains. We also have rivers and coasts. So we actually have quite a bit to choose from over here. Now, this is because, and this is why I say, always, like, don't rely totally on RNG all the time, because, like, you do need to kind of have it somewhat make sense. And this is why. It's because, let me go to the monster section of White Box, right? So there's not a lot of detail given about monsters, because the more detail given, the more your own mental image of the fantasy world is going to be locked into a single track. We're not going to say that giant ants are red, nocturnal, 3 feet long, and fond of eating elves, because in your mind they might be blue, diurnal, 5 feet long, and eat only plants unless attacked. Details about monsters toss roadblocks in front of imagination. Yes, details can also inspire imagination, but we're making the assumption that if you're interested in fantasy gaming in the first place, you've got a good imagination as is and don't require details about the size of a giant ant, which is a fair enough point, right? So that is, I would say, hey, try to make sense of it in some ways, right? Because like, you can literally make these monsters your own, and that's honestly the way the game always was. Pardon me, I'm going to grab me something to drink real quick. I got something just right over there. Alrighty, I'm back. Hopefully I didn't peak the mic. But as you can see, not a lot of detail given, right? So what we want to do is, because we already have Wandering Monster tables here that we could draw upon any time. What we can do is go ahead and set up some layers, some monster layers. So, and we want to give each terrain at least 3. This is the way I normally do. Actually, we're going to go back to, I think that was a 16-point font, right? Yeah. We're going to go back to 16. Okay. So, we're going to do that. And we're going to go down a font size. And we're going to fill in, okay, we have open terrain, forest terrain, hill terrain, mountain terrain. Now, of course, in the case of having hills and mountains inside of a forest, you could use either 3 of those tables and it would be A-okay. no big deal. So what we're going to do, I have my handy dandy little dice app on my phone, and you're not going to be able to see the results, but I will. So let's roll for the open train first. We're going to roll 3 of them. That was the wrong die. Okay, there we go. 8. So we got an animal. Why do I keep going back there? That's not where that is. Okay, so we have, we're going to go to Century Gothic. We're going to go to a regular 12-point font, but we're going to bold it. Animal lair. We rolled a 2 on that, so what did we get? We got a monster lair, an actual monster lair, and we'll load up here in a minute. And these layers are more meant for generating ideas on what you can do for creating an adventure for your players. We got another animal. I don't want that result, so we're going to go, and we rolled a human. So human layer, and we'll figure that out here in a minute. Now that we've done that, we're going to go back to Century Gothic, and me doing this font is, yeah, part of it is for style, but a lot of it is also for differentiating, like picking things up, and I'll be putting more spaces between the lines pretty soon. So forest terrain. We've got a monster. We've got an animal. I'm not a typist, by the way, so forgive me. And we have another animal, but I don't want that result. We have another human. Because it's a little hard to come up with ideas for adventures when it comes to animals. It's not impossible. It's just easier if you have like monster, animal, human. And of course, some of you know that there's lycanthropes, and there's also dragons. And if I roll that, we are putting in layers for them. So for the hills, first thing, again, another animal. And I'm not opposed to this, having at least one, which is why I'm not throwing it out altogether. We have a giant. Yep, we have a giant. So, something interesting. And we have a monster. So, monster. I also forgot to put down river. Have something by the river. Okay, that's fine. And we'll roll for that here in a minute too. Century. Bold it. And what do we get for... I'll interact with you guys soon, here a second. We got a monster, which hill and mountains are generally going to have the same thing. So, we got a monster. We have a humanoid. That's probably the first humanoid one that we rolled, which is funny because humanoids are generally going to be the earliest type of enemies you'll run into besides undead in a typical campaign. And we have a human. And of course, we can always add more things. We're not just sticking with 3. It's just that the 3 is easy enough to start out with without having to come up with a lot of ideas. All right. So, like, this is not a hard fast rule, okay? So don't think it's me saying you have to do it this way. This is just my process. This is just my process. You might not necessarily agree with it, but I mean, it is what it is. So, on the river / coast, we rolled an animal. Of course we did. We rolled, I think we rolled a human, or did we roll a humanoid? We rolled human. Okay. Which it's cool to have humans because the humans break up the monotony of having monsters all the time too. And again, human might not necessarily be evil, you know, that's something we'll come up with here in a minute. And did we roll another animal? I don't want another animal. Let's roll something else. We rolled another human. I don't want that either. Aha, there we go. That's what I want. Lycanthrope. That was a nice feature of the old AD&D 1E Monster Manual too. It had a breakdown for monsters based on type of environment where it typically be found. I'm no typist either, hunt and peck all the way. I use a lot of human type monster encounters in civilized areas. Yeah, I drive my wife nuts because my wife can type. I can't, so I peck. Like, so it just is what it is. I don't have the Monster Manual 2. I do have the DMG, that's really about it. And then of course I've got, you know, the Rule Cyclopedia, and I've got Castles and Crusades. I've got all this stuff. You know, I have plenty of things to draw on. But you know, let's just say all you had was White Box Fantasy Medieval Adventure game, right? A totally free game system that costs like $3 if you got a physical copy. Let's say you had that. Well, let's build off of what this little thing can do, and you'll be surprised at what you can come up with. You can make a very fun game with just this cheap $3 book. So, now that we've done all this, let's figure out what animals and monsters and stuff we have. Let's take care of all of our animals first. So we are going to be rolling a D6 on a lot of these. Pretty much all of these. So on open terrain, what are we getting? Giant snake. Snake giant. This is normally what I put. So, what are we doing for the forest animal? Centipedes. You come up with an idea. And just as an idea, because you probably think it's centipede lair, that sounds really lame. Well, not necessarily. Basic Fantasy RPG, for example, has the Adventure Anthology, and one of those in there is called Insect Valhalla. Is this dungeon where pretty much the theme is going through all these different insect nests and stuff like that. It's actually a pretty decent little adventure. So, I mean, you can turn it into something. If you're somebody anybody that likes to go after game balance, for example, an insect lair is not necessarily a bad idea for a first level party, provided that you make it apparent that some of these monsters can they have saber eye poison, right? So excuse me. All right, so the hill. What do we want for that? We have a sturge. And a sturge, don't sleep on the sturge. A sturge is actually pretty dangerous, pretty nasty little thing. Okay, and river animal. What do we get? Spiders. Probably my favorite bug to run is the spider. Even though it's technically not a bug, it's an arachnid. Because a bug is a colloquial term for insect, and an insect is it has like 3 main sections of its body: a head, a cephalothorax, a thorax, and 6 legs, and typically antennae. So, and usually compound eyes. Whereas a spider has an abdomen, a head, and like 8 legs, and no antennae, and very simple eyes, usually clustered up. But a spider lair is not a bad idea. And I'm thinking something of a fishing spider. But that's me. This is how you generate ideas. So now let's go to the monster lairs. I think monster is probably further down. Yep. Okay, so on the open terrain, here, it's all about what the GM and the players bring to the table as far as fun. Yeah, I mean, true. Like if you're having fun, you're doing all right. I think too many people take it too seriously. Centipede, huge, is one of my go-to monsters for sticking in a dungeon, nooks and crannies at all levels. Dude, a centipede is such a nasty thing. A centipede is a nasty little creature. Scolopendra is a very frightening creature. It's probably the one invertebrate that I would say I probably do have a phobia of. They're very creepy and alien. Like spiders, I'm okay with. Centipedes, not so much. So, anyways, let's get to the monsters. So we are rolling for open terrain, and as you can see, we have quite a bit to roll from. What did we get? Ooh, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. So forest, what did we get? Ooh, interesting. So we have a werewolf and we have a blink dog lair. And blink dogs are generally pretty friendly creatures. Of course, this is your game. You can make them evil if you wish. So, I mean, they don't have to be good. But not every monster needs to be evil either. So, what were we rolling next? Hill. And this one has the most to choose from. Hippogriff. It's already becoming very interesting. Mountains. We have rolled. Ooh. I like were rats. They're really cool to have. So now open terrain. Let's go to human. There we are. Aha. The classic. Bandit lair. Forest. I mean, it makes sense even though we're having a repeat. Big curiosity, I don't think giants are their own separate thing, are they, on the table? Oh, they are. Well, we'll fix that here in a minute. I couldn't remember if they were in this game or not. It's been a hot minute since I've run White Box. I generally like it though. I think it's a fun game. So human for mountain. Okay. Ooh. That'll be very fun. And finally, oh, well, I mean, that's, now these don't technically need to be layers. They could all be one thing, but like we can come up with ideas, right? This is just kind of a building block. Now let's figure out what kind of giant in the hill. I gotta think about this one for a minute. So I can see that working. It's just kind of where it is in the forest, but then again, I could come up with an idea of like forest fires and stuff like that. So alright. So let's go to humanoid. It's very interesting that we didn't really roll much on humanoids. But we could always add humanoid layers into general dungeons too. Layers can either be their own dungeons or they could be parts of dungeons. You know, it just kind of however you wish to come about with it, right? So the humanoid was in mountain. So classic. It just wouldn't be a fantasy game without them. I mean, how can you have a fantasy game without a goblin? Okay, and finally, lycanthrope. Can't remember, are they their own thing? Or are they an other? Okay. Monster. Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe Just maybe. Okay, so I think there's only 3 lycanthropes in White Box. I think. Let me double check. Let's go down to lycanthrope. We have the were-rat, the were-bear, the werewolf. So, okay. Each one of these is pretty dangerous. Be pretty nasty little surprise, right? They're by the river. Honestly, all 3 of these can logically make sense given the terrain, right? So I'm going to roll a D3 on. Actually, you know what? I'm going to consider the hit die for a minute. So, were-rats and werewolves are about the same in terms of stats, stat-wise. Were-rats being easier to hit. Were-bears, pretty dang dangerous and very much higher. So, I wouldn't say a D3 necessarily on this. So I'm going to roll a D8. A 1 and a 2 will be a werebear. A 3 to 5 will be a were-rat, and a 6 through 8 will be a werewolf. What did we get? Oh, the dice have spoken. Werebear it is. Now, of course, I reserve the right to fiat my way through this, but I want to take a look at what I have and just kind of ponder, because I definitely like the idea of having layers that are not necessarily going to be easy for players to overcome. You don't necessarily have to fight these things, simply find the treasure. So this is something to ponder on. Right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to place some of our somebody got pulled over just outside of here. That's interesting. Okay, cool. So we're going to place some of our layers. Well, no, you know what? I'm going to hold off on that because I haven't decided if I wanted these to be their own thing yet, or if I wanted them to if I want them to be part of a dungeon necessarily. But let's check back in on chat. Nice, hippogriff can work out. Great if the party can manage to subdue and catch it. Yes. Dungeons rather than one big dungeon. That's kind of how I am, especially when it comes to layers. Sometimes I think certain layers can work together pretty decently to make some kind of logical sense for some of the animals to be living in close proximity to each other. Let's put it this way. The Caves of Chaos from B2, they can make sense within certain when you consider the faction play, right? When you consider the faction play that's in Keep on the Borderlands, you can make it make sense. Because that's how Gary was. Like, he's like, yeah, this is how it makes sense. It's like they're living in close proximity, but they also they don't have to kill the players. They can capture them and ransom them off, right? They don't always have to kill players. And it's all about like coming into that idea of faction play. Like my players um, made friends with the ogre in the southern part of the caves, and the ogre kind of took them through to clear out the. I can't remember if it was hobgoblins or just regular goblins that was living down there. But that was just kind of how that situation was handled. But that's just me. Um, yeah, I mean, so far I'm happy with how this is going out, and I kind of figured, you know, my biggest criticism. So that like this is just going to be me talking for pretty much the rest of the video about not necessarily about creation of this particular campaign, right? But this is just me talking. My biggest criticism of the OSR is that we have the and I don't like to use the term community or collective. I appreciate when people say welcome to the community and this, that, and everything else. Like I appreciate it because I understand the sentiment, right? But like I'm very much an individualist. I don't like being part of a collective. But when I say we, like I will go into that. Like if we are going to call ourselves a collective, well, we have a problem, and it's the inverse of the 5e problem, right? The inverse of the 5e problem, where 5e has all these supplements that depend upon the consumer owning 5th edition in order to use said products. The OSR has a problem in that there's no supplements, but there's a glut of rules, and I don't understand why. And so, like, all the creative effort has been put into, for whatever strange reason, has been put into creating yet another rule set that we really didn't need, and we still don't have supplements. It's one of the reasons why I think Basic Fantasy RPG does so well, is because, with the exception of revisions, they only have the one edition, really, when you consider it. Now, fourth is a little different in the terms of they changed coin weight, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think they got away too much from the roots. Like, the whole point is to be, the whole point was to be like BX, but with a different twist, with Gonerman's own twist on it. But the Basic Fantasy, like when you own one product, you basically have the product for each edition, each revision of the game, right? And they have so much supplements. They have so much adventures and modules that you can download or buy for print or whatever. So like that's why I think Basic Fantasy does so well, is because they don't have this problem that other OSR games have, where you have a rule book and that's it. Maybe a couple adventures, but yeah, B2 seems like a monster hotel, but you can get a lot of mileage out of working their politics between the groups. Yeah, and you could easily take, if you happen to have B1 in Search of the Unknown, you can make that, you can stick that dungeon into the Cave of the Unknown, right? And it works. That's why they're called modules, right? Because they were supposed to be able to be clicked together like Legos. And there's also that evil priest back in town at the keep, and I typically have him kind of riding around, kind of following the players and all that, and that dude has a connection to the Temple of Evil that's in the cave, the Temple of Chaos or whatever it's called. There's all these mechanisms at work. You can get a lot of mileage with a simple game like that. But I've also thought about, a lot of people do live plays. I've thought about, one of the reasons I like Whitebox so well, and this is not me saying all these other systems are subpar or whatever, because I like Basic Fantasy. But it's gotten to the point where there's a lot of channels dedicated to it, right? And my channel just kind of falls on the wayside. I guess that's why I try not to tie myself to a brand. So instead, I decided, I'm going to talk about Whitebox for a while, and I ended up liking Whitebox a lot. Um, so I actually thought about doing a thing where I can have my viewers roll up some characters and not necessarily have them get on camera, but I can be on camera as the DM, have them like type out their actions and stuff like that. Now I don't know how dice rolling would work, but we could figure that out, I suppose. Indeed, it's hard to sell new rules without a strong ecosystem of support products. Yeah, I mean, that's why I bring up Basic Fantasy, is because like they don't have that problem. And Shadow Dark, even though it's not OSR but OSR adjacent, Shadow Dark is starting to get really good support. A lot of third-party content, so they're not going to have that problem. Chelsea Dion, is that her last name? Whatever, or Kelsey, I can't remember her. The girl that makes Shadow Dark, she made it to where a lot of people can, like, her license allows a lot of third-party creation, and like Shadow Dark has taken the hobby by storm. Like, it was almost like a sleeper hit, and so a lot of people are creating content for it. So she's not going to have problems with not having content. Castles and Crusades does not either. The Castles and Crusades kind of sticks to their guns, and the only thing that really hurts them is their price. Unless you're a military guy, because they'll sell to you at like a discount if you're a military veteran, which I think is cool. That kind of gets into politics a little bit, but I'm always, I'm not even a veteran. I think that's a cool thing to do. But yeah, I thought about running, like, because where Whitebox is so simple, like having my viewers play along through a chat while I like DM everything. Now, of course, I would have to figure out how the logistics would work. Again, the dice rolling part, and unless I roll all the dice, but at the same time, that kind of makes it unfun, I would think, in some ways. Like, I'm cool with rolling the dice for thief checks, but when it comes to like players attacking or something like that, like, I would just be afraid of people thinking I was fudging the die roll, because I definitely don't fudge, but I also don't put myself in a situation where people could ever accuse me of it. Let's put it that way. I love B1. It's my car's training dungeon. I still apply a lot of the base encounter numbers, treasure placements from that module. Dude, it's so cool. My only complaint is that Mike used Roman numerals instead of your basic Arabian numbers. That's the only thing I think that really hurts that module. It's because for whatever reason he used Roman numerals. And don't get me wrong, I can read Roman numerals, but it does take a hot second for me. Roman numerals is kind of a hard thing. But we're rolling up on the 1 hour mark now. I'm thinking that we've done a pretty good job tonight. I hope that I have been entertaining enough. I appreciate you guys watching me. I always do. I appreciate the support, the encouragement. I'm always glad to see feedback. Even though it was definitely Arkeo Matt's night. Definitely go watch his channel, Dirty Histories and Hobbies. He has a lot of scholarly approaches to things. He's got a lot of map making stuff. He's talked about a lot of thespianism. He's talked about what was your new one? I think it was how to have fun or something like that, which I believe it is Dion. Yeah, okay, cool. I wanted to make sure. Um, and then there is he's also got um, experience in archaeology and stuff like that. And really, when you think about dungeon delving in these games, like it's just a fancy word for it's just a fancier term for an archaeologist, I suppose. I mean, you're finding all these long lost treasures and stuff like that. But definitely definitely go check out Dirty Histories and Hobbies. Matt's a cool dude, um, and I thank you all for joining me tonight. Of course, I also want to take a moment um, to say to pay my respects, so to speak. Uh, I already made a post about it, but paying my respects to a giant in my eyes on YouTube was Paul Harrell. A lot of y'all know that some of y'all have followed me from the very beginning, even before I talked about this hobby. And y'all probably remember the firearms videos I did for a while, and the holster videos and product reviews, even though those don't exist anymore. I took them all down because like they just wasn't garnering enough stuff. But I do have a couple of subscribers from back then, and my stupid safety video. But I still maintain that it was a good idea at the time. It's just that it got lost in all the other gun safety videos, right? The four basic firearm safety rules. Um, but Paul Harrell was definitely an inspiration on a lot of that, and even after I started talking about this hobby, I've always been a gun nut. I've always been an outdoorsman. I did some competitive shooting back in the day. I'm a 2A advocate. I'm a self-defense advocate. I believe it is your right to defend yourself, your home, and your family. And Paul Harrell was one of those guys that definitely echoed that sentiment. And ideally, I just like to let people roll their own dice. I know they might cheat, but unless it gets to be too obvious, then they're really only cheating themselves. I mean, true. You're taking your you still have that conscience, right? That bisects you that you cheated. But I referenced Paul's 1986 Miami-Dade shootout video, and I use that as an example of why I think combat in these games, especially the older editions, was more realistic than what a lot of people gave it credit for, because combat typically is over very quick. If you've never heard of that shootout, it was what a lot of people consider the bloodiest 5 minutes in the FBI's entire history. By the time it was over, 2 FBI agents were dead, multiple wounded, hundreds, if not thousands, of shots fired, and the perpetrators did eventually die, being finished off by Ed Morales. But he was also himself injured and had to shoot one armed, to the point where the way that he shot one-handed was used in training exercises for the FBI for years to come. And Paul did an excellent analysis of that shootout, and it was one that really inspired me on a lot of this stuff. Thanks for the plug. The latest one is how to have fun playing D&D. That's it. Yeah, I knew it was something like how to have fun or something like that. But you guys, don't take anything for granted, especially in this little niche, right? I think that those of us that are involved in this hobby take it too seriously sometimes. Like, we pretend it's more important than what it really is. At the end of the day, it's all about having fun.